Thank you, Abraham. I've thanked you many times out loud. I'm sure you've heard me. My question is actually an extension of your first conversation.
Really?
3 years ago, I was in an Abraham workshop, and I had the magic. I was on my high-flying disc. I felt like gold, and I heard a voice. And the voice said, "Adopt a child." And that was not something that I felt like I asked for or desired. And it's been very confusing for me the last 3 years. And
why?
Well, I think based on your first conversation today, it feels like maybe I've not come to resonance with Source.
Well, so let's talk about this a little bit. So you felt like you were really tuned in, tapped in, turned on.
Absolutely.
And you heard a voice. So now this comes back to what we're talking about. In other words, trust or faith. In other words, did I hear it? Did I make it up? Was it meant to be literal?
Yes.
And so as when you heard that, what was your immediate response to it? We know it's been a while and you may not be able to remember, but what was your immediate response to what you heard?
Surely that message wasn't for me.
All right, so doubt entered in right away, so it could not have been possibly a clear message, and the fact that doubt came right then means there was doubt in the mix. So from that experience, you could come to understand that you were on a high-flying disc, or it felt like it, but are you following what we're getting at? In other words, when you get an impulse and you're really tuned in and you're really hearing all of the subtle nuances of what non-physical is guiding you toward, you feel it through and through. Things ripple up and down your body. You feel ecstasy about it. The feeling about it is so strong you just can't beat a path to the door fast enough to make it happen. But when confusion is there and resistance is there and aversion is there, and this can't possibly be right, that's guidance too, isn't it? That's guidance too. And how are you going to learn to ride a bicycle if you don't get on and tip it over a few times? How are you going to know? How are you really going to know? How are you really going to know what you're hearing from source energy? Have you heard us say that it's the feeling and then the manifestation? Well, that emotion was a manifestation, wasn't it? So really what we're talking about in all of this gathering, in all of these gatherings, what we're always talking about, you have heard us say, we know you've heard us say it many times because we say it constantly. You never get it done and you can't get it wrong. And so, did you go right out and adopt somebody?
No. All
right, so what's the problem? You thought you heard guidance. So are you having a crisis of, well, I thought I was tuned in and I must not have been? Or is it a wiser understanding? I thought I was hearing clearly, but then there was confusion in the way I felt. And whenever there's confusion in the way I felt, that lets me know I must not have been hearing clearly. And I was wise enough not to follow something I thought I heard because the way I felt gave me guidance that it must not be for me. That's the thing about going to a psychic or going to someone else who reads for you. They get stuff like that mixed up all the time. Many times the message that they're giving to you is their message to them. Mm-hmm. In other words, when you are tapping into these non-physical energies, that's why our guidance to you is to align with your guidance. We don't want you to listen to what we're telling you to do, because we never tell you to do anything. Mm-hmm. We encourage you to understand how the laws of the universe work and how to tune into your guidance system, but you got to show yourself. And the way you come to know and trust is by having the feeling and following it and then seeing how it plays out. It really is.
Thank you.
So often humans, you don't give yourself a chance to make a mistake. And we don't even call it mistakes. But you don't, how would it be if in this physical world that you live in, if there were laws and rules that someone could enforce that says, you've been chosen for this, and you better get it right with no training at all. Esther watched on the television yesterday young people on bicycles riding off the tops of mountains in Utah, off those cliffs, and flying through the air to catch the next cliff, and then flying through the air to catch the next cliff. Esther kept looking away. She trusted their belief in themselves, but she most of it she could not watch. They were turning somersaults in the air and then landing on jagged edges of cliffs, and then off they would go again. Well, you know, they didn't start out on those cliffs. They started out on other things. They showed themselves. They trained themselves into trust of their agility. They trained themselves into their trust of their agility. And this is what you are doing. You're training yourself into your trust of your emotional agility, which means you got to be willing to let yourself feel, and you got to know what you feel means. And then you just get more sure and more. More faith and more faith, more trust and more trust. But it isn't, we're not asking you to reach for trust in source, but you've got to. How are you going to know? How do you even know for sure that source is there? We can tell you that, but words don't teach. It's that feeling of magic like you felt. You knew you were connected to something, and you knew what that felt like. And then you thought, you received a thought, and it didn't feel like that, did it? That's guidance too. Enough?
Thank you.
If there's something that you want to get good at, it's your understanding of your alignment, yes?
Okay, so I was listening about these questions, and it really resonated with me, this strong feeling that I believe I've just felt it once, and it was like 12 days ago when I decided to come here. And it was really this very strong feeling that I should come. I just saw.
So give more description to the feeling. Strong?
Yeah.
Everyone understands that, but what other descriptions can you give to that feeling?
It was in the middle of the night. I just saw these crews, and it was something that came within me.
So did it feel like well-being?
Sorry?
Did it feel like well-being?
Yes.
Did it feel like a good idea or a bad idea?
Good.
Did it feel like fun or hard work?
Very fun. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about anything else. I was just like, when you said, I need this and I cannot live without this, it was like, I need to go. I cannot live without it.
All right. So now our next question to you is, so you had that experience with your guidance system, with your interpretation of your guidance system, which is which is enough. So as it is unfolding, is the manifestation of it matching the feeling?
Yes.
Then you know you were tuned in. In other words, that's what we're getting at. When, as it plays out, it matches the feeling that you had in advance. We've been saying this to you for a while. The way you know is by how it feels and how it plays out. And sometimes you have an uncomfortable feeling and it plays out that way. That's guidance too, yes? Good.
And then what my question is, this feeling was so high up. I never felt this way before, and I know I have done good decisions, and I know I have been attracted to things.
All right, so now we're going to explain this to you. So think of the word trending that we've been talking about here. So when you consider something, when you remember it, when you imagine it, when you describe it, when you tell a story about it, all of that is trending. Whether it's wanted or unwanted, every time you focus on something, in this conversation these days, we're calling that trending, all right? So think about how all through your life experience, you've been having different experiences and launching rockets of desire. And so now we're asking you to step back from the specifics of an idea just a little bit and think about the heart of them, the underlying factors of them. And then we're going to ask you the question, can you feel how you have been trending toward this knowledge, this understanding your whole life? So have you heard us say that when you really want something and you're in alignment with it, it feels really, really spectacular? If you really want something, if you've really been trending towards something and you are having an opposing thought, it feels terrible. So can you feel, doesn't it seem logical then, since you've been trending your whole life and before toward understanding how the universe works, understanding how to direct your thoughts and how to manage your thoughts by paying attention to the way you feel, doesn't it make perfect sense that even without understanding the details of what would take place in an environment like this, that your inner being knew that this was a perfect match to something you have always wanted? And of course, when the idea came to you in your non-resistant state, you would feel elated about it. That's guidance. That's how it works. So did you hear the important motion forward that we took in this conversation? What we're saying to you is there are things that it's like a couple coming together and they seem to want different things. She's a country girl, he's a city boy. She likes the mountains, he likes the beach. And it seems like they would be completely incompatible because so many things are associated with environment. But if you are like their inner beings, understanding the true heart of them, understanding each of their desire to expand and each of their desire to understand and each of their desire to love, if you can reach deep enough into their core desires, you could understand that they are perfectly compatible and that these peripheral things do not mean very much. Does that make sense to you? While so often humans are putting so much importance on things that are not so deep as love and upliftment and true understanding and such.
Don't forget to leave a positive message and subscribe.